My name is Mayte, but I've had a lot of nicknames over the years. Growing up, my family called me Maytesita. Once my nephew was born and eventually learned to speak, he started calling me May. And now my family kind of bounces between the two, May or Maytesita. I guess you can tell who someone is in my life by what name they call me. Mayte is my professional name. It's the one I use at work, at the doctor's office, or when I'm meeting someone new. But since I was little, my cousins and friends also started calling me Mighty. I'm not even sure when it started. I can almost pinpoint the exact moment, but not really sure. But I do remember liking it, because one thing I've struggled with is feeling mighty. Most days I feel small, like the world around me is just so big, and I'm just tiny. So when someone calls me mighty, it reminds me of something powerful, that maybe someone at some point saw something mighty in me. Maybe it started because I used to beat my boy cousins when we would race to the end of the street, or because I was undefeated at arm wrestling when we were kids, before they hit puberty, of course. Eventually, they grew taller and stronger than me. But looking back, I think God aligned it all. He knew there would be a moment when I'd feel insignificant and powerless, and He allowed someone to give me a name that would remind me of who I really am in Him. Because in God, I am mighty. I can conquer anything. I do have authority through Him. So now, whenever someone calls me mighty, I take it as a little reminder from God Himself that I am not small. I am seen, and I am who He says I am. Every name, every season, every moment I've questioned my worth, it was all part of Him shaping my purpose. I was made to reflect His strength, to walk in His authority, and to bring His light into places that feel dark. Even in the times I felt hidden, He was preparing me. Even in the moments I felt powerless, He was teaching me what true power looks like. His power through me. My name isn't just a name, it's a reminder that I was created with intention, that I have a calling, that I was made for more. I was made to stand firm in who He says I am. I am not just mighty in name, I am mighty on purpose. By appearance, yes, I am really short. I am only 5'2", but not even my height can tell me that I am not mighty. So let me ask you something. What does God say about you? Because you're not your insecurities. You're not your failures. You are chosen. You are loved, and in Him, you are mighty too. Hello. Welcome to another. That was a weird hello. Hello. Welcome to another episode of A Mighty Good Life. My name is Mighty, and I'm so happy you're here. And today I just want to share a reoccurring event in my life, which is two topics: confidence and comparison. And I think this is a topic that we constantly go through. But before we start, I want to share a verse and some of my notes, which is Ephesians 2:10. It says, "For we are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You were created with purpose. You were called with intention. And the same God who named Abraham, Peter, and Mary calls you by name. Not the name the world gave you, but the one He whispers over you in love. So even when you feel small, remember, you are mighty, you are chosen, you are His. I feel that for me in this case, and I know many of you will be able to relate, hopefully I was able to edit before this video started. Hopefully it played out the way it did in my head, and it actually came out good, and I actually posted it when I posted this video. But that's a small part of my struggles. And the world gives us so many titles and names of like, you are this, you're not good enough, you have to look this way, you have to act this way. And we give more credit to what the world says about us and what the enemy says about us than what God says about us. And for me, I feel that for many years, for many, many years, I thought confidence was being loud, being extroverted, being super outgoing, being the party wherever you went. And I'm 28 years old. So just recently, I've learned that that's not necessarily confidence. Confidence comes in so many different ways. And yes, there's people that are confident, that are loud, and they are the party wherever they go. Couldn't be me. But I love my extroverted people because then the attention can go to them and I can just hide quietly. But I was recently talking to my sister and I was like, hey, like, what makes you confident? And she was just telling me. And then I said, like, well, I wouldn't consider myself confident, but for me, I know who I am. I know that I am a daughter of a king. I can go anywhere and I'm going to walk there knowing that my father is the king of the world and that he's got my back and that's who I am. And I can go anywhere, know that he says that I have power through him, that I am strong because of him. And yeah. And so I later went home that day and I was like, I told what I just said to my husband, and he was like, that's being confident because you know who you are. And I was like, yeah. I was like, whoa. And like, someone can come up to me and they can tell me something not very nice, and that won't shake me because I know who I am. So confidence comes in many shapes and forms. But for me, just realizing that for so many years, after so many years, it was like, whoa, like I walked thinking that I wasn't confident, but at the same time, I knew who I was. In a way of like, the world sometimes paints confidence a certain way of like, oh, confident people wear certain outfits, confident people act a certain way. But like, my confidence came from God. And I feel like that changed my perspective of like, now I can be like, I'm confident versus, I don't consider myself confident. And just having that of like, my confidence comes because of the things that God says about me. And now going to comparison, if you remember or if you watched the last podcast, we talked a little bit about how Saul was so consumed by just jealousy because he compared his achievements to the achievements of David. And instead of focusing on his duty as a king, he let jealousy consume him. And I feel like sometimes we look at other people's lives and we desire their life, and we see like, oh, like that person has the coolest job, that person has the coolest car, look at their house, look at the clothes they're wearing, look at the way God uses them, look at the way they speak. when in reality, you forget the calling that God has over you. Sometimes, and I'm telling you this because it just happened to me recently, where you get so caught up in like desiring certain things, or like, oh, I need this, I need this. And you're like, whoa, hold up. Like, do you realize that you're living what you prayed for? And sometimes we just have to stop and realize, like, hey, slow down. Like, you want all those things that that person has, or the people that when you swipe, you see their life, but look at the blessings that you have. And we wish to have what other people have, and there's people wishing to live the life that we were living. And because we're so caught up in wishing for and like comparing ourselves with other people, that we forget what God has placed in us. And we're so focused on like, oh, I want to be like this person, or I want to be this, or I want to have that, when it's like, whoa, like, hey, I've given you something special, and just because they have it doesn't mean that you don't have something special. And for example, for me, I can be like, hey, like, this person speaks so well, and like they don't stutter, they don't mess up when they speak, but like I've given you different gifts. And so for me, I feel that God has given me, I guess, my desire, or something that I enjoy is kind of teaching, and that I'm very passionate about, is like just when I read like a story in the Bible, and like I discover something new in the Bible, like the next day I tell my little sister everything that I learned, and she's like, whoa, that's so cool. And it just makes me so excited when I get to share what I learned, you know. And so like we all have different passions, different desires, and different talents, and those, like, focus on those passions. If you have certain passions, you have them for a reason. And like nothing is by mistake. If, like how I said in my, before the video started, before the first part, is nothing is by accident. Like God puts everything together so perfectly, where maybe at first you don't understand something, but later you're like, whoa, God just works in amazing ways. And it's so crazy. But yeah, just, I think even men or women, but especially women, like we live in a world where we have social media. And even if we didn't have social media, we look at others, and like we like to compare ourselves of, again, like, hey, like I wish I had that, or I wish I looked like that. But God made you the way you are for a purpose, and he placed in your heart passions and dreams, and yeah, so, and it's a beautiful thing. And yes, let others inspire you, let others challenge you, but never compare yourself to them, because God has placed something beautiful in you. And yeah, it's a little short message, but I just want to encourage you that what you have is something special, and those desires and passions and talents, God placed them in your heart for a purpose. And just seek him, and keep seeking him. And the more you're close to him, the more you will find yourself. Because the further I am from God, the I feel lost. But the closer I am to him, the more sure I feel. And I feel that I discover myself a little bit more, of like I don't feel as lost. When you start seeing yourself by the name God calls you, comparison loses its grip and confidence starts to grow. The easiest way to gain confidence is from God. I used to wonder and ask myself, how can I be more confident? And all along, the answer was God. And the answer for everything will always be God. Let God guide you and get closer to Him, because we need Him. And the closer you are to Him, the better version of yourself is going to come out. And I know life gets crazy and it's hard. And I'm not saying life with God is easy, but life without Him isn't easy either. So life is hard either way, but life with God is always better. And you have a purpose, so it's time for you to live it out. Your confidence comes from God. Don't compare yourselves. Remember that. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching this little podcast. Again, I'm so happy you're here. Remember to seek Him and never forget that God loves you.